Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for September 18th. And I'd like to call it to order. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Okay, we'll go to the next agenda item, which is public comment.
I do not have any public comment forms at this time for items off of the agenda. I do have something later on during public hearing.
Perfect. So we'll go to the next agenda item.
Item 3, consent agenda.
Does the commission have any comments about the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Motion passes 5-0. And let's go on to the next item.
Item 4A, this is an application for a zoning change request, zoning change request from agriculture to residential estate to allow for one single-family home, case number ZR 25-010.
Make sure I pull up the right one. Set these things up for right-handed people. Okay. Good evening, P&Z Commission. City of Fate, my name's Robbie Highfield. I'm the senior planner for City of Fate, and I'll be giving the staff presentation on the Nguyen property zoning request. Project ID ZR 25010. The property is located on North Smith Road by the double 90 degree switchback in this yellow box. This is a straight zoning request from agriculture to residential estate. Cool. The request is because the applicant wishes to sell off the 2 lots for single-family use, 1 home on each lot. The issue is that this property, while it's shown as two lots, has never been platted, meaning for them to be able to sell, they need to plat the property, as sales are not allowed by meets and bounds. But because our agriculture minimum lot size is 5+ acres, they need to do a rezone in order to make the minor plat legal. So view of the property, again, it's 2 lots totaling 2.5 acres. One is 1 acre, one is 1.5, and the property is currently vacant. So this is straight zoning, so we've got 3 approval criteria. Does the application meet the comprehensive plan and other adopted plans? Does it meet the character of the surrounding neighborhood? And are there any other required factors allowed by Texas law or case law? Criterion A, does it meet the comp plan? This property is in the rural reserve place type, and residential estate is a representative zoning district, this place type. And single family is a representative use. So staff find criterion A met. Criterion B, does it meet the character of the surrounding area? Up here is all rural ag land and open space, as well as some large lot residential. Closest large lot residential is on Coyote Run, which is about right here on my map. You can see it from the aerial, from the image. Two single-family homes are 1 on each lot would be fairly in character with everything in this area. So staff find criterion B met, and criterion C isn't applicable in this case. Because this is a zoning case, we did have to send out public notice. 6 notices were sent out. At the time of presentation, we have received 0 responses. And because it's just a basic zoning case, we don't do fiscal analyses on these, as their impacts are minor in nature. So staff's recommending that case ZR 25-010 be approved. And I can take any questions you have.
I have questions. Are the utilities already in place, or is the city going to incur cost bringing utilities to these homes?
So this property would be in I believe this is going to be in the Bear Creek Water District, and would be on septic, which is managed through TCEQ, because we don't have utilities anywhere near here. So they would have to, any homeowner that buys the property would get water through Blackland, or I'm sorry, not Blackland, through Bear Creek, and be on septic, and that's permitted through TCEQ, not the city.
Okay.
Do you have any questions? Any more questions? Do we have an applicant here for a presentation?
I do not see the applicant, no.
Okay. If there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and call the public hearing to order. It is 6:06. Do we have anybody wishing to speak on this agenda item?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing at 6:06. And do we need to have any discussion, any other things that we want to discuss together? Okay, if we have no further discussions, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ZR 25-010.
A second.
Let's go ahead and vote. Motion passes 5-0. Next agenda item.
Item 4B, this is an application for a zoning change request from agriculture to residential suburban density 1 to allow for a single-family subdivision, case number ZR 25-009.
Turn that on. My name's Robbie Highfield. I'm the senior planner for the City of Fate. I'll be giving the staff presentation on Sundale Heights Single Family Subdivision, project ID ZR 25009. So this is the location of the proposed subdivision on the north side of Greenbrier, west of Churchill. And you can see where it is in relation to Blackland and Greenbrier, west of that. So y'all have seen this one a couple times now. This is their third proposal. This is from their most recent preliminary plat, which you will not be seeing today, but it is currently submitted to the City of Fate for staff review. So this is fairly close to what they're proposing. This is not conceptual like the last time you saw. Probably, as I mentioned, this has undergone two previous submittals. The first was ZR 25002, which was a request from agriculture to R2 zoning. It went to P&Z on the 7th and was approved by the council, or by the commission, recommended for approval 4-2 with one absent, and went to council on May 5th, where it was denied unanimously. The applicants came back as case ZR 25007, changing their request to be agriculture to a planned development with base R2 zoning. Went to P&Z on June 12th. and was recommended for approval 4-0 with 3 absent, and to council on July 7th, where it was denied unanimously. This project, well, it was denied with prejudice by council, meaning they can't come back. Can't come back for a set period of time. One of the exceptions to that set period of time does it meet Article 2, subsection 2.4.8 2A1, which states the administrator determines that the resubmitted application corrects any deficiencies identified in the original application by City Council. In the original application. So this application addresses the majority of council's previous concerns on ZR 25007. In this case, a P-plat was submitted for review, solidifying the layout with some minor amendments as we continue the review there. To address the lot size concerns, this increases their lots from the 4,000 minimum in R2 to the 10,000 square foot minimum required by R1. And the lot count has dropped from 98 lots, which was shown in ZR 2507, to a total of 52 now. That drop is due to the larger lots, by the way. The property description, this is 3 lots totaling just under 20 acres on Greenbrier Road, directly west of North Churchill, currently zoned ag, and currently has 2 houses and some farming, family farming, not commercial. So unlike most subdivisions where they come in for PDs, these applicants are applying for straight zoning, meaning they have to meet the 3 approval criteria. Does it meet the comprehensive plan and other adopted plans? Does it meet the character of the surrounding neighborhood? And are there any other factors required or allowed by Texas law and case law? So criterion A, does it meet the comp plan? You can see in my image here that this area outlined in yellow is their project area, is the suburban neighborhood place type. R1 is a representative zoning district in this place type, and single-family uses are a representative use. Therefore, staff has determined that they are meeting the intent of the comprehensive plan for this area, and criterion A being met. Criterion B, does it meet the character of the surrounding neighborhood? This property is surrounded by subdivisions. To the north, on the other side of their floodplain, is Reserve at Chamberlain Crossing 3. Directly to the east, and tying into this property, is Reserve at Chamberlain Crossing Phases 1 and 2. To the south is Chamberlain Crossing, and to the west, a little ways down on Jenkinson, is Reserve at Chamberlain Crossing Phase 4. Both in Chamberlain Crossing and in Reserve Chamberlain Crossing, those are actually smaller lots than this will be. These will be larger lots with bigger yards. Directly adjacent to this property is the White property, which was approved probably around half a year ago now as being R1 zoning, as it too is in this single-family place type. And additionally, Joe Berger Park is about 570 feet east of this property, and parks are compatible uses with subdivisions. For all these reasons, staff has determined that the applicants are meeting the character of the surrounding neighborhood, and criterion B being met. And in this case, criterion C is not applicable, as there's no Texas law or case law to consider. As part of any zoning case, we're required to do public notice. We sent out 83 public notices and received 0 responses as of yesterday at 3:40. I have not received any responses since the time I put this presentation together. As with all major developments like this, we do a fiscal analysis. And in the fiscal analysis, we found that the year one contribution to the city is approximately $54,000. The total proportionate cost, meaning what is the city responsible for, is approximately $58,600. The annual project net revenue with roads is a loss of $50,500 approximately. Over 40 years, that equates to a loss of $2.3 million when factoring in roads. The revenue to cost ratio with roads is 0.52 to 1. The private to public ratio is 12.5 to 1, meaning it's about 40 years to repay. That revenue to cost ratio, the target is 1 to 1, which is a break even. The net positive for private to public ratio is 40 to 1. I do want to mention, keep in mind that while we do the fiscal analysis, it is a educational tool only. It is not part of the approval criteria, and the fiscal performance should not factor into any decisions made. Rather, we use the fiscal analysis to keep in mind what projects, how projects impact the community and how they play into the community as a whole. So staff is recommending approval of case ZR 25009. And I can take any questions now, and I did see the applicants walk in and they do have a presentation.
Does anybody want to ask any questions of Robbie now, or do we want to wait until after the applicant does their presentation?
I would wait till after the presentation.
Same? Okay.
Perfect.
I saw him walk in, so you want to come on up and have a little conversation with us?
Okay,
And please state your name for the record, please, and your address.
no problem. All right. My name is William Solomon, 4512 Legacy Drive, Plano, Texas. Good evening, members of the committee. Good to see some of you. I remember most of your faces from prior. Let me make sure I can control this. There we go. So yes, I'm here to present Suburban Capital Partners. We're a private equity hedge fund. I'll spare you a lot of incredible background. We operate currently in 20 different states. We've averaged about $250 million in annual deal flow each of the last 4 years, focused on real estate development, land entitlement, vertical construction, multifamily office, and then a whole lot of single family as well. You can see the states that we operate in. As we talked about with Sundale Heights, we have a minimum lot size here of 10,000 square feet, which is an increase from where we were in our original request. Obviously, all single family homes. High quality materials, large facing front brick facades. A little bit of a difference in this now. With the increased lot size, we've increased the target square footage of the home up about 500 square feet. So our target ranges are between 2,500 and 3,500 square feet. Minimum lot size, as you know, 10,000 square feet. Looking at a price point, really, we say 4 to 650, but really the sweet spot, I think the sweet spot for a lot of these things are going to be like 4 to 5. As you'll see. And really, it's about how do you get really high quality finishes in a home that's got a footprint that works from a square footage point of view for a family. We've engaged with City of Fate. Obviously, we worked through planning and zoning. We had an initial approval in April on our first plan, went through, reduced this to our 52 lots at 10,000 square feet. Obviously, have completely enjoyed working with professional staff here, manager's office, planning office, attorney's office, everybody's been wonderful. And so, our hope is just to deliver a project here that everybody can be proud of and something that we would like to move forward on. So with that, would welcome any questions and any conversation that you guys would have for me.
Any questions for the applicant, or do we want to have the public hearing first, see what the public says, and then go back and ask questions again? Does that sound good? Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. We'll probably end up calling you back up, so.
Thank you.
So we're going to go to the public hearing now, and I know we probably have people here to speak, so I'm going to open up the public hearing at 6:20 PM. Who do we have?
I have one resident, Ms. Karen Kaiser of 1093 North Churchill Drive, wishing to speak on item 4B.
Thank you, Sam. Karen Kaiser, 1093 North Churchill. Good evening, P and Z. Well, I got one of my questions answered because it pays to sit in front of the Economic Development Manager. I was thinking the applicant was going to develop and build, because when I Googled your site, I could see office buildings, medical buildings that they had their name on, and multifamily, but I couldn't find any homes. But if I understand correctly, they're going to develop the land. They're not going to build the homes. But I did come hoping we could see some other homes that they've participated in. But it's exciting that it's not Lennar, not D.R. Horton. But I live on North Churchill, where this neighborhood will be my neighbor behind, all of our homes back up. And I do have a couple of concerns that I'd like to say out loud so that the applicant can hear me, and I think I speak for a few neighbors. Our land meets this farmland, and it drops down 3 feet. And you might have heard me talk about this before, and I'm concerned of what happens when they develop their parcel to put the 53 homes on. Are we left with one of those horrible gaps between my wooden fence and their brick wall, and a 3-foot decline? It's just odd. And I can't control that land behind my fence. I think my property line and everyone's ends right on the fence line. So that's one concern I have. And my second concern, Chair Wymokely raised when it came before P&Z before, the stub road of Stewart that's going to open up and connect these neighborhoods, as Ryan and Robbie have explained to me, that was always the intention. It's still going to be a shock to Phase 2 of Reserve at Chamberlain Crossing, because we moved there to be in the quiet zone of Chamberlain Crossing. There's no pool in there. I don't see a car go down my street. So it's going to make a huge change in the quality of life for everyone that lives there. And I guess I'd just like to ask, please be mindful of that. I don't own those 20 acres. They do. But I've seen this go south several times in my short 4 years here in Fate. And I just hope they'll be mindful that not only did we move there for it to be quiet, we paid a lot premium to back up to the farmland for the farmer that was never going to sell. And of course, you can't hold your hat on that. I realize it's not dedicated farmland, but it's going to be a shock to have a 2-story home peering into, I don't even shut my blinds. So this is, I guess my prayer is, please be mindful. It's not our land. You have every right to develop it if you're approved. But I've even thought, would they consider a path maybe to buffer between the reserve and the section on North Churchill where we're just going to be touching up? Or if not, how close are these homes going to come to the back of ours? A nice walking path would be a nice way to give a little buffer, but I think that's it. I hope that when this goes to council, I know it's just a zoning. I think, I can't speak for council, but I sure wish there was like a concept plan or something for them to see how it will all mash out. There's trees between me and this farmland. I hope they don't get torn down. That happened when the apartments were built behind Williamsburg. I remember Mayor then Billings saying, we're going to save the trees. He couldn't save the trees. So I just hope we're really good stewards of the land and respectful of each other as neighbors, because whether it's 100 houses or 53, it's going to be, all of the impact is going to be borne by Phase 2 of the reserve at Chamberlain Crossing predominantly. And then the other is more normal impact. But for those of us that back up to this, it's going to be a night and day difference in our lives to suddenly have homes looking in your backyard. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Okay. Questions, discussion?
Oh, just for the record, if we can close the
Oh,
public.
I'm sorry, I
and
forgot about that.
For any other,
Are there any other applicants or any other people who wish to speak?
and I do not have any other forms.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:25. I apologize for jumping the gun. So let's go ahead and have discussion. I'm assuming we'll probably want you to come back up anyway, so why don't you just kind of head up here, so.
Could we maybe briefly redefine what we are supposed to do as a planning and zoning and where our purview is as far as what we're actually voting on and what the council would actually do?
So, as the Planning and Zoning Commission, it is your job to evaluate the zoning case in front of you against the 3 approval criteria, since this is a straight zoning case. Those, keep in mind, those approval criteria are, does it meet the comprehensive plan and other adopted plans? Does it meet the character of the area in the neighborhood? And is there any other Texas law or case law to consider? As a reminder, staff's recommendation is that they have met all of those criteria.
Thank you.
Quick question, but we can disagree with staff, correct?
You are, that is your purview, yes?
Okay, Robbie, I know, like, I just want to go ahead and get this one factor out of the way with, is I think it's been something that's been discussed a lot. There's a lot of, like, I believe there's a lot of, like, flooding plains over in that area and a lot of, like, ponds and stuff. I just want to walk through, like, what, kind of how you guys have, maybe you guys have thought about that, and Robbie, how you guys have thought about that first as well.
Yeah, Isaiah, can you let me pull up my presentation? So, if we go back to, oh, come on. Okay. Are we on everybody's screen now? Yes, okay, so can you see Lot 8 back here, Commissioners? This is on their preliminary plat. It's park and green space and open area. Do you see this line? My cursor is pointing to this line right here. This is the floodplain area. So they're gonna be required to do a flood study or a drainage study to ensure that they're not causing downstream effect. We have a 0 downstream effect policy in FATE. This is a part that's reviewed on the civil plans. Their civil plans, their infrastructure that allows them to build will not be approved unless our engineer, our city engineer, our civil team is happy with their drainage. In addition, as they're doing their lot-to-lot grading, we don't allow for lot-to-lot drainage, right? So as they grade their property, I know there was some previous concern about the pond. That's a natural pond that gets infilled, right? As they go through their grading, part of their grading work is to address all that drainage, so it properly drains into the streets, into the system that they're going to have to put in place. The floodplain is a 100-year floodplain, and I believe I can double check whether it's zone AE. If you want to ask the applicant how they're addressing it, I can come back to you and confirm what that floodplain is.
Yeah, no, absolutely, thank you. So Commissioner, to Robbie's point, all of those things are accurate and what are already in our scope and scale of plan. Obviously, anything that's in the 100-year floodplain, we obviously dedicate to open space, and you'll see most of that to the back of the property. So there's nothing there that won't be addressed in a flood study or any sort of comprehensive design for how things are drained, part one. Part two, actually, it sort of pertains to this wonderful woman behind me, her conversation about lot drop-off, which obviously Robbie talked about. There's really only 3 things that are in your purview, but there are usually, and I know a lot of you have had a lot of experience with this, so there are city cost-sharing agreements, there are development agreements, things of that nature. I have no problem entering into a cost-sharing agreement with the city to make sure that the topography and any retention doesn't create any encroachment on that property. So that actually, one, we would have addressed that anyway, but if it makes the public feel better, I'm more than happy to engage in a cost-sharing agreement to make sure that any drop with regard to soil that would be, I think she mentioned maybe 3 feet. I don't have the survey in front of me to know if it's 2 feet or 4 feet, but we'll address that, and happy to enter into any cost-sharing or fee agreements that the city would have us do to do that.
I did just confirm that it is Zone AE floodplain, meaning, what that means is the base flood elevations have been studied, so they know, it's been professionally studied to determine what those, what the elevations are of that floodplain, and using that, they model out where that 100-year flood event would go. So if you look back on your plat where that arrow is, and I apologize, sometimes these are just hard to read when they're this small, it does show as stopping before they get to any of those back lots. And that floodplain continues, looks like it was studied as part of the reserve at Chamberlain Crossing phase.
I have a question. Where you're showing the creek, does it go across the road? The flood thing there, does it go across the road into the next neighborhood across Blackland? Is that the street that's there?
There is a creek through there. That's partially what that floodplain is. I'm not sure if that creek is always active or if it's just active during rain events. However, again, that floodplain, even if the creek floods, that knowing those base flood elevations tells us how far water in a severe 100-year floodplain event, where that should go. Additionally, I go back to the civil plans get reviewed. All of that drainage needs to be improved so we have zero downstream, and they need to prove that there's zero downstream effect before we approve their civil plans.
How do they prove it?
Hydrology, so they submit their hydrology to our city engineer. Our city engineer, we use Kimberly Horn as our city engineer. Their team reviews the hydrology. They review all the drainage when they submit their civil plans. Any easements that are needed would be reflected on the plat. This in front of you isn't a concept. This is their actual preliminary plat. Once they finish this process, this will come to you guys most likely at your next meeting, depending on where we are on the review, potentially the one after. Their next step after that would be their final plat. Their final plat would show any easements that are needed for the drainage concerns.
I have one more question, I think. I have more. Can you show me the map of where the streets go, where they intersect Greenbrier and Blackland, or if they even go to both of those?
If I can remember what slide it is. Are you looking for this one?
Yes.
Okay.
So it only intersects, sorry, it only intersects with Greenbrier. It doesn't go up to Blackland or I-30, right? Correct?
There's a intersection here on Greenbrier, and then it ties into Stewart.
Okay. But there's, I guess, no.
Yes.
No direct access to I-30 from there? They have to take Greenbrier, pretty much?
They'd have to take Greenbrier up to Blackland if they want to go east, and then Greenbrier to Memorial to go west.
Just one more question, sorry. Is there any plan to put a light where they come out of there? Because that road is backed up a lot in the mornings.
So unfortunately, some of y'all who have been on council are aware, Memorial is a TxDOT road. Now, that intersection, when we did the Greenbrier extension, was built to fully accommodate a stoplight when it's ready. Unfortunately, we're waiting on TxDOT basically to confirm it hits warrants. one of the downsides about warrants is you need traffic to trigger it, and unfortunately, it's not made very clear what that point is. Now, I will say that they are going to be required to do a traffic study, what's called a TIA, Traffic Impact Analysis. That's done and submitted generally with their civil plans, and any recommendations that the TIA is reviewed by Kimley Horn as well, our city engineers. Any recommendations are required to be implemented onto their plat, built into their site, and approved by us before they get their permits. So all of those drainage concerns, all of those traffic concerns, we understand that Memorial is a mess. It's not good, no one's happy with it, but the city's hands really are tied until TxDOT determines that we're allowed to put a light there. I will say, we do have a access, it's not really applicable here, but we do have an access control plan for the commercial development that we could potentially see along Memorial. So to the extent that we can, the city has proactively addressed what we are able to. It's just one of those unfortunate scenarios where it's kind of out of our hands and out of the developer's hands.
I have a question. Is there any other way to have extra ingress and egress to this community?
I was going to say, without getting wildly creative on the fly, I would probably defer to city staff at first because they know the surrounding developments and what's capable.
Yeah, so one of the issues on this site when we were going through our initial discussions is how much frontage they have on Greenbrier. So we have standards of how close streets can be. The reason we do that is we don't want to create traffic jams and wrecks of people trying to turn into multiple streets, right? And so you can see, I wish I had a measurement in front of me, how short that frontage actually is, and there's not room to put a second entrance. So that's one of the reasons that Stewart Lane connection, not just because it was designed when Chamberlain Crossing went in to be tied in, but to have that second point of egress and that second point of emergency access for people, for life safety, there needs to be 2 points of access. And then with that floodplain to the north, there would be quite a bit of floodplain reclamation that it could cause drainage issues down the road if not done properly. So really this is the least invasive solution we have to the site constraints, really.
So,
The other question?
I was just going to piggyback on that really quick. My creative mention that I just made, he actually discussed, which was reclaiming floodplain. We have to actually bring dirt in to raise it up out, and there are, to Ms. Grove's point, several potential externalities, I guess is a big word to use there, but there's a lot of other flood-prone problems that can come from that when you reclaim part of it and then leave other parts off. So that was well said, so.
The other question I have, since this is not a quote-unquote developer, you're just platting the land, how long is it going to take to actually have all these houses built, or is it ad infinitum?
Well, so that's a great question. So we do have construction capacity. The reality of what we typically do with deals like this is you come in front of a planning and zoning commission, you obtain a preliminary approval, and then we usually enter in some sort of standards, home size, quality, materials, all the construction code pieces, which usually will dictate whether it was us as a builder or a third-party builder we would bring in. It creates those standards and that quality. And so for us, we look at this, when we were looking at this initially as a 98-lot development, we looked at it as 2 phases of 40, coming back obviously to a 52 lot. This is something that's probably, realistically, with absorption and fate and horizontal infrastructure, this is probably going to be 2 years to get. So, I mean, this is not something that in 6 months you're going to have 52 new residents. I mean, there's water, sewer infrastructure. We have to go through civil platting. I mean, I think sometimes folks can get ahead of themselves a little bit. Like the land development, sort of the horizontal development component of real estate can take quite a bit of time because of all of those components. But once infrastructure's in, vertical construction goes pretty quick. It's sort of the horizontal piece of it that takes sort of the waiting game, if you will.
The other question I had was, what are the street widths? Are they adequate for the fire equipment that we currently have?
Yes, ma'am. We have to do that to design all, though. I mean, we wouldn't be able to bring a plat forward without that turn radius, multiple points of egress. That would all be there. Yeah.
I have not reviewed their most recent plat, but they have adequate right-of-way for all our trash and fire safety.
Yeah.
Okay, still have more questions. The homes that you say are going to go in are more or less $400,000 to $500,000.
4 to 6, but yeah, it depends on what people want to put in them, yeah.
What does that do to the home values of the Chamberlain Crossing and the people who have already been there? Because their homes are going to be older and not probably on the same lot size. Is that going to diminish their value by adding these?
So home value assessment is done through Rockwall County Appraisal District. It's done yearly. Y'all are familiar with that process. It's really hard to tell. Generally, it is a misnomer that new development brings down property values. That is a myth. I will not sit here and say that it's going to raise them either, because I don't have that data to know what's going to happen.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, we had the same concerns because we lived in the property over to the east there. We're on half-acre lots, and when Chamberlain came in, we had the same concerns, and it didn't affect us like we thought it was going to. So, hi.
Hi.
I have some questions.
I'm here to
'Cause
answer them as best as I can.
Round 3. So
Round
I know
3.
I've been pretty tough on you in the past, but my fellow commissioners have asked some of the questions that I would have asked already.
By the way, you are not tough. This is all part of a public process. It's
Exactly.
totally fine. We do this all over the country, so this is
I know,
totally fine.
I think the first time I was really after you about the traffic, so I'm really glad we've already discussed that,
I
even though
have-
that's not part of our decision-making
I have
process.
thoughts on that when my time to speak comes. I want you to ask your questions, but I have thoughts and even a suggestion, but you please, yeah.
And this might be a question for you and Robbie in conjunction. So the first iteration around, we came with R2, which was the smaller lot sizes. P&Z approved it with, lots of questions, things like that. Got denied by city council. The second time it came in, it came in as a planned development, a PD. I know that was one of the concerns of city council when it went there, is they really kind of wanted to see it in a PD format instead of a zoning. And obviously, we know what happened with that. So now we're back with just a straight R1 zoning. What was the decision to not only change the lot sizes, but to go back to a straight R1 zoning request?
Great question, and happy to answer. So I'll have to admit, my experience with City of Faith the first time around was relatively new, because we've done a fair bit of this, and it was a unique experience, because I think the reality of traffic concerns here are maybe different than they are in a lot of other, not only Texas communities, even though there's a lot of growth, maybe even some other communities around the country, because typically there's more of a planning and a lobbying function with regard to arterial roadways and what the state does with those and how the city interacts with those. I'm sure your planning department can tell you sometimes they can be waiting a long time to hear from state road commissions and other folks about widening or growth or traffic concerns. I think your stoplight point, Robbie, was really adequate, that it sometimes seems like unless you're banging a can on somebody's window, they don't understand the level of growth you maybe have in a community like that. So our experience with this was we were a bit surprised the first time through, not because of what we asked for, but because there was such a quite a groundswell, if you will, of issue around the traffic. You go back and watch that city council meeting, really everybody was very supportive of our plan, even at a higher density. It really was like, hey, it doesn't feel like we can do this right now with this level of traffic. And so we listened and we said, okay, what can we do to rework this plan? What can we do to try to ease concerns where we can? And then the other part of it is what can we also do to be an advocate to help for these things? I hear the stoplight thing. I think actually, to the commissioner's point, I think there's actually tangible things that developers can do that are in support of cities, which is like, hey, look, we want to do this. We want to bring taxable revenue and increased home ownership and prosperity to a community. Could you maybe work on getting a stoplight here to make everybody, it does help sometimes when the private sector advocates along with the public sector for these things, number one. Number two, the other thing that we really looked at as we looked at this on the R1 piece was conformance with the existing plan. Obviously, if you look all around it, it's R1, and we said, okay, hey, we have lots of deals out there in the world that we can make money on. Can we be profitable and provide a good product in the existing conformance of an R1 comp plan? And, with a few adjustments, we felt like we could do that. So, we would much rather move development forward than have an idle piece of property in an already growing city, because the problem is when you get the road fixed, if you don't move forward with a project like this, then you have infill development where you're trying to infill development where you've already fixed a roadway. So it's kind of handling all that. So that's what brought us back to here, which was saying we can conform to R1, we can live with this project, we think we can be a great value add to the city of Fate. Obviously home ownership and taxable revenue are good things here, and we think we can provide that.
I also wanted to thank you for your answer. I don't need any additional information from Robbie, so you did very well with explaining that. I just wanted to address, during the public hearing, Ms. Kaiser did mention about something, the fact that you guys don't actually build the houses, you get somebody else in, or
Yeah,
did you want to address that comment just to make sure we have an
Well,
understanding,
wanted-
even though it's not relevant?
Yeah, happy to address it. Yeah, no, this is great. So one, my comment prior stands about if there is a 3-foot soil, we'll fix that. That's part of, happy to, like I said, do that through a cost share agreement with the city, or quite honestly, just it's just neighborly development. That's just how you do it, is you work to address those things. So that's for me, not an issue. However, the city would like to move that forward. With respect to the house piece, I think all developers and builders, even if you peel back your big national builders that are out there, frequently a lot of them use subcontractors. They use folks that are, even general contractors beneath them. What we look at is we give ourselves an option. Do we have the option and the capacity to do all of our own vertical product? And can we show you an example with our building company? Sure, happy to bring that to you. I think the reality for us that we find is within communities, especially even with 53 lots, some people, there are local builders, and we do believe that local business is a good thing. And if there's somebody that has good quality construction, that has capacity, that's providing jobs in a market, there's no reason that everybody can't sit at a dinner table and be happy with one another. That's sort of the way the real estate model works. There are folks that specialize in lot development, folks that specialize in building construction. And so whether we're in Fade or Rockwall or Royce City or any of these other communities, we try to take that into account. And so I think what we're trying to do is leave ourselves open for the option. Can we construct them and provide a great high quality product? Absolutely. Do we have to do it depending on the supply of existing builders in the community? And if there is someone local that makes sense to collaborate with, that's okay too. We're very comfortable shopping local. So we try to do that when we can.
I appreciate your comments and things like that. Do the commissioners have any more questions for the applicant?
No, but I do have one more for Robbie.
If you want to go ahead and have a seat,
Okay.
we'll have some discussion here. If we need you back up, we'll let you
All
know.
right, perfect. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
And again, I'm not real sure if this is in our purview. I think you said maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But it's going to take 40 years for the city to come out even?
Yeah, so that's, I should have included this in the slide. No single-family project will ever pay for itself.
I understand.
To not
but
speak
we're
in,
gonna-
to
we're
not,
gonna-
to not speak in absolutes, it is highly unlikely that any single-family project will ever pay for itself. So the goal in the city of Fate isn't necessarily for every project we bring in and every project we look at to be productive, to be cost productive. The goal is to have a fiscally productive city as a whole. What that means is we want to focus on commercial, like Lafayette Crossing, how high density that is, and the quality of tax dollars and tax base that projects like that are going to bring in to help offset projects like this. The existing subdivisions we all have are all losses. One of the previous slides, and I apologize for taking it out, is a comparison to what the surrounding reserve at Chamberlain Crossing phases are. All of those are net losses as well. So yes, the 40 years is a shocking number because it's a long time. But I do, again, like you mentioned, want to emphasize that we bring those fiscal analyses as an informational tool, even though they're not used, nor should they be used towards our recommendations, either at the staff level, P&Z, or council for that matter. We bring them so we're aware, so we're being responsible stewards for the city at staff level of keeping in mind these projects.
I understand that, but my issue is it's going to take 40 years to recoup the losses, which is not in our purview, but we are also, in the meantime, going to bring traffic issues to the residents, which is something I think is within our purview to make sure it is one of, I think it's item number 7, or the second item. So I don't know that the traffic issue offsets the loss of revenue.
So I go back to, that's why we do the traffic impact analysis. So the traffic impact analysis is a study to measure trips. And admittedly, I'm not a traffic engineer. I'll do my best to explain it, but they, so one way is a trip. Residential projects like this, residential subdivisions, do not generate as much traffic as a commercial development does. Commercial development, which we're all in favor of, drive much more traffic than these residential projects do. However, we have no issue with traffic concerns on those. It's only the residential projects that the traffic issues seem to occur. My point for saying that is that while it is important to consider traffic, to single out single-family projects, to single out residential projects as being drivers of traffic when they cause less traffic than the projects we're actually happy about, seems disingenuous. But it is something you can keep in mind, and you are absolutely allowed to use that towards your recommendation tonight.
Okay.
Robbie, I have one more question for you. You brought up that they have already submitted a P-plat for this. I know we're doing straight zoning today, and just so that's something newer to me, just so I know, if they've already submitted the P-plat to you, if we recommend that they change the zone, or we make the zoning change in city council, are they allowed to change that P-plat after, you talked about it's being submitted that way to stop that kind of bait and switch that we were talking about previously. And I just want to make sure, can that P-plat be changed back, even though the lot sizes would be set by the zoning?
Once the P-plat is approved, the minor plat is, the final plat that comes after needs to closely resemble the P-plat, or it won't be approved. They can't start construction without having that final plat. I guess in theory, they could pull their preliminary plat that probably did not cost, it probably was not cheap. The applicant can speak to that. I guess in theory, that could happen. Do I suspect that to happen? Have I ever seen that happen in my almost 5 years here? No. Generally, once the P-plat goes in place, the final plats, that's what they're doing.
So one of the things, I think with the switch to the R1 is it kind of prevents the bait and switch like you said, in theory they could do it, but it puts a lot more, restrictions on them than like the R2 would, both with restrictions on the lot sizes, which I think is kind of one of the things with the resubmission that we're looking at.
Yeah, looking at their preliminary plat from the previous reviews that I've done of that process, and this is actually the newest one that we at staff have not taken a look at. Let me pull it up on our, yeah, this is actually their most recent submittal. At the R1 level, the R1 zoning district doesn't allow for lots less than 10,000 square feet. So even if they decided, even if the zoning gets approved as R1 zoning, then they are required to have lots no larger than 10,000 square feet. Doing quick math, if you say, okay, that's about at most probably around 3.5 houses per acre based on needing streets and utilities and everything. 3.5 times 20 for easy math. What is that, 60 something? So 60-ish, and then you need all those streets. I mean, they're gonna pack in as many lots as they can, and I assume that's what they're doing and what the applicant is about to say.
Robbie did a great job with math, sans one thing, which is the flood zone and what is actually a usable acre. So that's so just for clarity, the maximum density that we can have under R1 zoning, you are looking at. We can't squeeze any more lots in, we can't do anything because we have an open space requirement, which is also a flood zone. So there's no way for us to do any more with this property than we can do. And I'm happy to confirm on the record that our preliminary plat will not deviate unless it has any conformance from the city that is requested. So I have no problem with that. And one last thing, if I could, just for the sake, I love the public forum here, and you ask a lot of really good questions, and so do you. So and this just comes from having been around it for 20 years. Your conversation about traffic and retail and projects, I love to listen to that. The reality of most of it from a private sector point of view is you have to create the rooftops and the density of rooftops in a certain number of miles of radius. And some people say 3 miles, some people say 5 miles. I won't bore you with that. But the point is sometimes those big commercial projects that cities want that generate that sales tax and that additional use tax above property taxes, you have to have the rooftops here to attract the retailers that are willing to do that, because when they do their analysis, they're looking at the number of rooftops, how recently they were constructed, what the household income is in the zip code, what does the census block look like, and then all of those things are what help you as a community chase that retail project, whatever it may be. I don't know what Fate necessarily maybe aspires to have, but that's how a lot of major retailers do their calculus for it. And so that is why sometimes it benefits to have retail economic development and residential development sort of occurring a lot at the same time, because one can help the other with regard to the recruitment. So that's just 2 cents for the day.
Okay, Robbie, one last question and I'll quit.
Bring it.
How many homes have we, the city of Fate, already have on the books or in planning to be built? Have we already approved? I mean, are those 52 going to offset that commercial thing he just talked about?
Are you talking about how many houses are entitled, so the subdivisions, okay. I do not have an exact count. I believe we have about 2 more years of stock of permits. 52 is not a lot. Keep in mind Lafayette Crossing, which is already approved, is gonna have 200 single-family houses. We've got another project that is improved. It's townhome project. It's permitted by right. Got 147 units down there. Lafayette Crossing, again, the multifamily component, I believe they're capped at 1,050 units there. Yeah. So the point being, 52 homes is minimal compared to what we still have to be built.
Any other discussion between us commissioners? Questions, thoughts, prayers, hopes, smashed, I don't know. Okay, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ZR 25009.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Let's go ahead and vote. We're missing one vote, so. Oh, that's okay. Motion has passed 3-2. And let's go to the next item.
Next item is item 5, Director of Planning and Development Services Report Announcements pertaining to city activities, upcoming events, future legislative activities, and other matters related thereto.
I get to play director today. So, no, we got Celebrate Fate, and that's it. So go to Celebrate Fate, enjoy that.
Thank you, Robbie.
Item 6, Adjournment.
I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Go ahead and vote. Motion passed, 5-0. Thank you, everybody. Oh, sorry about that. We will go ahead and close this meeting at 7:01. Thank you.